Welcome to This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, brought to you by Riverside Auto Group and produced by WLAQ Sports. Each week, we bring you insight, analysis, interviews, and our predictions for the week's matchups around the Northwest Georgia area. Here are your hosts.
And ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you into another edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, our Week 6 edition for September the 19th. 2025, a little hesitation there because I just can't believe that we're already halfway through with September. And at the end of the night, for most teams, we're going to be smack dab at the midpoint of the high school football regular season. What in the heck is going on, man?
It's a time warp, man.
Indeed it is, and we're glad you're with us here for this episode. We're going to talk about this weekend's games. We're at a different time slot here this week. Ian has been doing a little fishing this week, and I hope you had a good time.
I did. Absolutely. Nice to disconnect for a couple of days, but ready to get back and get after it.
So if we seem a little off-kilter here on the program today, we were both just observing before we went on the air. It feels a little weird to be doing this on a Friday morning instead of our regular time slot, which is now on Wednesday evenings at 6 o'clock before we get to the Coach Grove Show. But any chance we get to talk local high school football, pick some games, and cut up and have a good time, it always is going to be a fun time. So we're glad you're with us on the program. And Ian, what we usually do in our first segment is we kind of review last week's games, and then we kind of preview what's coming up in terms of our picks. And so we'll go ahead and look back at last week. A few notable things that took place. Unity Christian School continues to dominate everybody that's in front of them, which has been super impressive the way that they played offensively. But, maybe even more so than that, they have just shut teams down on defense. It's been unbelievable.
Yeah. Each week you're just waiting to see how they name their score. But also, and we'll talk about this, they've only allowed 10 points through 4 games. 10 points.
Gosh, that is impressive. Yeah. And like you say, more details on that coming up a little bit later, but they picked up a win over Fidelis Christian last week. Then the Fannin County Rebels, as we predicted on last week's show, were able to pick up a win over the Coosa Eagles. Obviously, they graduated some guys, getting some guys experience, but they've still got a lot of talent.
Yeah, maybe I jumped the gun wondering if Fannin had taken a step back.
Yeah. It might just be part of the tough competition that they played leading up to getting into region play and whatnot. Then the Darlington Tigers were on the road. We'll talk more about this in detail in just a little bit. Struggled, particularly in the first half, against Whitfield Academy, and played a much better second half. As things were even throughout the second half, and that's one of the things that Coach Groves challenged his team to last week. So some things to improve upon, but definitely saw some growth through the team over the course of the 4 quarters last week, which they will try to carry over to their first region game of the year that's coming up tonight. We're excited about that. Then you had Rockmart go into Union County to take on the Panthers, and they did what they do, win football games.
Yeah, Rockmart just continues to impress. Off to a strong start again. Only loss to the mighty Cartersville Canes, which there's no shame in that. But Biff Parsons got it rolling.
Then last week, the Cedartown Bulldogs went to Allatoona to take on the Buccaneers, and things did not go their way in that game. And that's one of the things that you see when you got a team that has replaced so many starters from last year. A lot of inexperience. They do have a lot of talent, but it's going to take them some time to get that thing going in the direction in which they want to. So there's going to be some bumps in the road, which you expect with a really young team. So continue to see things, I think, with that coaching staff to move forward there with Cedartown.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't get any easier as the region schedule winds on, but Tommy Athel will continue to get the most out of his kids and build a winning program, no doubt.
Oh, there's no question about that. And meanwhile, the Rome Wolves went on the road for their first region game of the season last week and had great success.
Yeah.
Picked up a great victory over East Paulding. The defense was really clicking, it seemed like, in that game. And, of course, their offense has really exploded over the last couple of weeks. So it really feels like things are starting to come together for this group of Rome Wolves, and they should just have an unbelievable season the rest of the way.
And something to point out about last week's game, once again, John Reed has never lost to East Paulding. He continues that streak as Rome's coach. But the Wolves built a pretty nice lead, which they had done against Creekside and Carrollton. And this time East Paulding punched back in the second half, but the Wolves finished strong. So I think that's just something that Coach Reed will take, and it'll galvanize this team, because they had those 2 games in which they had allowed a lead to slip away. This time they were able to shut it down, score points, and walk away victors.
And that's all part of the process of building up your team from year to year. And let's face it, each and every team is going to deal with roster turnover and all those sorts of things. So those first few weeks of the season is where you're going to really see some of the most improvement that you're going to see throughout. And we've certainly seen that from Rome, which should be of no surprise to anyone that's followed that program over the years and the coaching staff that they have. Model and Pepperell were both off last week. However, Model has already played their game this week. They played a Thursday night game out at Woodard-Tuggle Stadium. And this Bremen team must be really good because they won that game 42-7 over Model yesterday evening. And one of the things that I think people are going to struggle with facing Bremen, obviously they've got some really good skill players, but a lot of teams have a trouble, and I don't know the case last night because I didn't follow the game very closely, but is matching that physicality that they have up front as well, and they're going to cause some teams some problems throughout the region. Yeah,
they've got some girth on the line of scrimmage, no doubt. A defensive tackle that is an absolute disruptor. And I don't know that young man's name. I'm sure we'll hear about him when it's time to preview Darlington's matchup with them because Coach Groves will have him circled. But they've got a lot of talent. That's a good Blue Devils team. And unfortunately for Model, they were a little too much to handle last night.
Absolutely. And so the other thing that we will mention is our picks were identical last week. So we both went 4-1. So I have a 4-game lead at 24-9, and Ian is at 20-13 before we get ready for the list of games that we're going to pick today. And so with that said, before we'll take our first break, we've kind of recapped last week's action and then one game that's already taken place this week involving a local team. We're going to go ahead and run down the list of games that we're going to be talking about over the course of the remaining 20 or so minutes of this program. But the Unity Lions are on the road again this week. They're going to go to Horizon Christian Academy to take on the Warriors. You also have the Battle of the Indians. Chattooga Indians are going to be at H.A. Lindsey Stadium tonight taking on the Almerchi Indians. Almerchi back in action after the tragedy that took place last week. And I bet those kids, as difficult as it's going to be, it's going to be good for the soul to have some football.
And isn't it weird the way the universe works that Chattooga will be the team they take on? Chattooga, familiar with the tragedy, the awful car wreck that they had a few seasons ago. So a battle of Indians and two schools that know something about healing. So I hope it's a healing opportunity for everybody in the Armerchi community.
100%, man. So hope everybody's safe in that game tonight and that they have a very competitive, exciting game, and the fans get to have a little bit of a distraction from all the difficulties that they've had to face in recent weeks. Well, you're going to have the Gordon Central Warriors, who have had an outstanding season so far, going out to Branch Bragg Field to take on the Coosa Eagles. Haralson County is going to be at Chris Hunter Stadium taking on the Darlington Tigers. You can hear the call of that game on WLAQ, and also you can watch their live stream. But the best thing to do is to get out and support these kids, get out and go to the games. That's what we always encourage people to do because they feed off your energy and love the support. And it's a good time, too. You will enjoy it. It's worth every penny you get to pay to go to the games. Pepperell is going to be at Temple taking on the red-hot Temple Tigers. Cedartown is going to be taking on Cass Colonels. And then Alexander is going to be at Barron Stadium tonight to take on the Rome Wolves. So we've got another interesting slate of games that we're going to be predicting and talking about over the course of the next little bit.
Yeah, so now we just need to hear from the sponsors that make this show possible and come back and pick some games.
Are you shopping for a new car, truck, or SUV? Riverside Auto Group has a location to meet your needs. Browse their selection online at riversideautogroup.com or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, Riverside Nissan in Rome, or Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to our Week 6 edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. It's picking time.
Indeed it is. And so we will just go ahead and jump in to our first matchup, and we're going to start with the Unity Lions playing in Georgia Association of Private and Parochial Schools, and they are hitting the road at 4-0, 1-0 in region play to take on the 0-3, 0-1 Horizon Christian Academy Warriors. And Ian, you get the honors here, and we'll start us off with our first pick. And I would imagine that there's pretty much only one way to see this one, man.
Well, I mean, we talked about it in the first segment. The Lions continued to roar last week with a 52-3 whipping of Fidelis Christian. Miles Schwartz threw 3 touchdown passes. And again, this Lions defense has only given up 10 points through 4 games. They're playing lights out on both sides of the ball. Now they get this Horizon team coming in that's 1-3 and struggling to score. I think you know which way I'm going.
Yeah, the same way that I will also be going. I'm taking the Unity Lions, outscored their first 4 opponents 209-10. Play great defense. Also, the offense is just clicking on all cylinders. I don't like to compare one team to another and that sort of thing through different eras of years, but this must be a pretty darn special Unity football team. And last year they defeated Horizon by forfeit, and I'm assuming, I don't remember this exactly, that it was one of those situations where maybe they didn't have enough players to play or something like that. So I think that, Unity should have no trouble here, and we'll pick up the victory. So we both pick Unity in this first game. Ian, the next game that we're going to talk about is going to be a battle of the Indians. It's Chattooga and Almerchi, Lock and Horn. Series history-wise, Chattooga leads it 16-9. They won this game last year 49-7 after losing the previous 2. But I think that this is going to be a bit more evenly matched this year than it was last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, only one tribe can emerge with a win this evening. Both teams have struggled to score, so I'm expecting a low-scoring defensive struggle in this game. And, Matt, I'll be honest, I may be picking this one with my heart, but I do think that this is a pretty even matchup. But I want it for the Almerchi Indians. I want them to walk away with the W. So, again, maybe that's why I'm going this way, but I'm picking Almerchi. I think they win 10-9. Since they lost 10-9 a few weeks ago, I think they get it by a point.
I think, and I get where you're going on with this. I don't disagree with that. I think that one of the big advantages from terrible circumstances that Chattooga has going into this game is the fact that they've played 4 games. Almerchi's only played 2 games. And so Chattooga, they come in with a couple more games under their belt, more reps and things of that nature. And when you got an evenly matched game like that I think it's going to be, that might be a slight edge, even though they're playing this game on the road. So I could see this game going either way. I'll pick Chattooga, but my heart is definitely with the Almerchi Indians, and I hope that they make me miss that pick. I'll say that. But I will circle Chattooga in that game. All right, we're moving on to the next game. This is going to be the Gordon Central Warriors. And Ian, the Gordon Central Warriors are off to a 4-0 start for the first time since 2012. They won 6 straight that particular year to start the season. And it's been tough sledding for this program. Yeah. And for them to get that start, no matter who they played, it is a really big deal. I'm curious to see how you view this particular matchup between Gordon Central and Coosa.
Look, 4-0, you can't sneeze at that. I don't care who you've played, but I did have to lift up the hood and take a peek at the opponents that Gordon Central had played. And I'm not trying to rain on their parade, but when you look at it, those 4 wins came against opponents that have a combined record of 2-15 this season. So I'm not sure how great of a 4-0 team the Warriors really are, but they're going to have their chance to prove it going forward. So if they want to shut this guy up, they're going to have to do it when he picks the team they're playing tonight. Because I think Coos is way better than their record personally, and I think Jeff Cannon's squad gets the win at home.
Well, Coosa leads the series 7-6. Gordon Central won it last season 30-0. Gordon Central, as we mentioned, hadn't had this kind of start to the season in a long time. I thought I was going against the grain here a little bit in this pick because I think conventional wisdom is going to point people towards picking Gordon Central in this game. But their opponents are a combined 2-15, and I'm not trying to take anything away. Who am I to do that they're 4-0? Yep. That is an accomplishment, to your point. However, Coosa has played some pretty tough football teams. Model, even though they got beat pretty soundly by a really good Bremen team, I think has some playmakers. They're a tough opponent. Ridgeland is much improved over last year. Fannin County, they're an excellent football team. So the Eagles are going to be a bit more battle tested, I think, and have faced tougher competition than what they're facing in this game coming up in my humble opinion. So I'm with you, man. I feel like Kusa is going to pick up the victory here. I don't know how much confidence I should have in that, but I'm with you. When I look under the hood at the schedules, there's no doubt that Kusa's played the tougher teams, and they always say that iron sharpens iron. And I think that Kusa will have gotten better from the experiences playing, tough competition, and I think that's going to serve them well playing at home tonight.
Oh, well, we broke that one down to a T.
We see that exactly the same.
Indeed.
All right, so obviously we're not going to pick Bremen at Model because that game took place yesterday. So I think what we'll do here is we'll go ahead and take another break. We'll come back and we'll break down all the games that are taking place in 6A D1 after these messages. But this is This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. It's our Week 6 edition. We're doing it on a Friday morning as far as the taping of this, which is a lot of fun, and hope you're enjoying the program today. And we'll be right back.
Are you shopping for a new car, truck, or SUV? Riverside Auto Group has a location to meet your needs. Browse their selection online at riversideautogroup.com or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, Riverside Nissan in Rome, or Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group.
And we welcome you back. This is our Week 6 edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, where we get together and we talk about the slate of high school football games for the week, and we give you our predictions for whatever that is worth. But this next game, we are not going to give you our prediction. We'll talk about it a little bit, though. We're calling it tonight on WLAQ and also the live stream, but it's the Haralson County Rebels and the Darlington Tigers locking horns. And Ian, last year this was a tight contest. By the time things were finished and the dust settled, it was a 21-16 victory for the Tigers, who have won 16 to 5 games over Haralson County. But one of the things that I will mention is last season was the first time that these two programs faced each other since the mid-90s.
Wow.
So this is back on the schedule after a long hiatus, if you will. So we haven't had a lot to talk about in terms of this matchup. But give us a few thoughts on the Tigers so far and what you think about this game.
Sure, absolutely. The Rebels are coming in 3-1, but much like Gordon Central, if you lift up the hood and you look at those opponents, those wins have come over teams that are combined 3-9 on the season. The loss to Putnam County is concerning as well to me because I don't think that's a great team. That said, we saw the Rebels last year. We got the eyeball test, and they had some dudes. I mean, they really did. And then they looked like they could be a program on the rise. The support is absolutely there, and it's tough out there on those county roads, Matt. As for the Tigers, this is one of only 4 home games that they get this season, and I'm telling you, the last home game against Ridgeland, that home crowd showed out. I don't know if I've ever seen such an electric crowd at Chris Hunter Stadium. So I'm expecting it to be packed and them to be there to support. And it sounds like we're going to have some healthier Tigers as well, which will go a long way in helping them get back on track.
And to your point on that has been one of the parts of the storyline for this Tigers team this year. The injury bug hit in game 1, and it has not let up. I mean, every game, more or less, you've had a series of injuries and down to third string, a lot of position groups and stuff like that, but you're gradually starting to get some of those guys back, and that is going to go a long way, and it couldn't come at a better time as you get ready to enter your region play. So definitely getting a few guys back this week. That's super exciting to see going into this matchup. So we'll see what happens. But, talking about Haralson County, they've got some size up front. They've got some good skill players. And like we were talking about last week when we were talking about Whitfield Academy, I was kind of glancing at the roster in preparation for this broadcast tonight. I recognize some of the names. So, like the Tigers, they've got some experienced guys back, some names that you recognize, and that sort of thing that made a difference with this team. And even though Haralson County last year were a 1-9 team, they did not play like a 1-9 team much of games. They had a hard time finishing with wins. But let's face it, they caused a lot of teams some headaches. And this year they start 3-1, so they're starting to have that confidence they can win some games. So I do think that this could be a competitive game. But I think we're going to see a different level of fire getting those guys back and intensity. It's always going to be a lot of intensity from Darlington, but they're going to rally around those guys that are back in the lineup for sure.
Right, and you've also, what Coach Groves has done, while the injury bug bit the Tigers hard, is that they've been able to build some depth as well. Matthias Selly did a great job starting for Miles Twyman. Miles is back now. This Haralson defense has to worry about Miles and Jace on the field, and then you've got Matthias who can come in and spell them too. Hopefully Bodie Powers will get to play, and I think the Tigers with some more playmakers are going to be really dangerous on offense.
I agree with you. So excited about this matchup and how it's going to unfold, and looking forward to it. You can catch the call here on WLAQ. Next game on the list in Region 6A Division I is going to be the Pepperell Dragons taking the long trek down to Temple to take on the Tigers. The Dragons are 1-3, deceiving record there for the Dragons, no doubt about that. They've been competitive games all the way through, and they're going to face a team that's 4-0, has just ripped through the competition for the most part, scoring a lot of points. I'm curious to see how you view this matchup.
Well, I mean, you get these perceptions of programs, and for a long time, Temple was one you checked off as a win. But there has been an absolute evolution under Corey Nix's coaching regime. Temple is a monster now, and they've got some playmakers. I think they're one of the front runners for this region. Explosive on offense, as you mentioned, putting up points in a hurry. And I agree with you as well when you talk about the Dragons. That record's not where they want it to be, but their losses have been close and against really good football teams. So I expect them to stay in this game. It's on the road, and I think in the end, Temple's going to prove to be too much. But honestly, I think these Dragons have the fight and ability to prove me wrong.
I agree with you on this one, man, and everything that you just said. Temple, they blasted 3 of 4 of the teams they've faced. None of their first 4 opponents have posted a winning record at this point. Sometimes I put some stock into that, not with this team because we've seen them.
Right.
We know what they have. They can beat really good teams, and they are going to beat really good teams this year. There's no question about that. But I think Pepperell could be the toughest test that they've faced. I mean, they have some playmakers, and once they put everything together, they're going to be dangerous. And last year, this was a 49-28 game. There were points of this game that Pepperell was really competitive. Dragons lead the series 6-3. I'm going to pick Temple in the game, but if Pepperell found a way in this game to pull off the upset,
Wouldn't shock me.
I would not be shocked. To your point on that. So we'll see what happens. I'm not comfortable with picking them to win the game, but I'm certainly rooting for the Dragons as a local team to go down there and pick up the victory, and I think it should be a pretty exciting game. So we'll see what happens.
Take your nose plugs.
This one's really interesting. Oh, yeah, no question about that. The visitor side, if you've never been down there, is built up high, and it's really unusual looking until you find out why they did it. It's because it's built kind of over a sewer, whatever you call it, and every now and then you get the waft. The waft is unpleasant.
So be prepared, Dragons fans.
Yeah, take you some milk jugs and be loud, and take you a couple nose clips because you might need them. Nothing against Temple, but
not at all. But
it's a fact of
it is.
Life
it is
when you're going down there. All righty, let's move on. We're going to talk about the Cedartown Bulldogs going over to Cass. Cedartown's 2-3, 0-1 in region play. Cass is 4-1, 1-0. Last year, the Bulldogs won the game. Bulldogs won the game 36-0. They lead the series 27-4. So they've been dominant in this series. But this Cass team's wired a bit different.
Yeah, it is. Coach Gates has really built this program into a consistent winner. Doesn't shy away from any tough opponents. They opened the season against one in LaGrange, lost that game in the Corky Kell Classic. Since then, 4 straight wins. Brody McWhorter is looking like a Power 4 quarterback that he is. And honestly, I expect him to make another deep playoff run. I think the schedule is just going to get tougher for Cass as we go along, and that starts with Cedartown visiting. The Bulldogs are a young team, as we mentioned in the first segment. They're still trying to kind of find their groove, but with a coach like Tommy Athey, you know they're going to continue to get better every week and leave it on the field every Friday night. I can't pick against Brody McWhorter and Cass at home in this one, but I think Cedartown goes and keeps taking steps forward.
Well, one of the things that we always enjoy doing and preparing for these shows is kind of looking back at the series history and seeing trends and those sorts of things. And this one's kind of interesting because there have been some significant gaps between meetings, as we referenced in starting this conversation, between these two programs. First time they met was in 1966. All this information is available from the Georgia High School Football Historian site, which is just a very nice resource for preparation for these kind of things. Played a lot from the mid-'60s on through the 70s and 80s. No meetings in the 90s, and this is the 10th meeting in the 2000s. Dogs have won the last 4. But, Coach Gates has just got this team rolling. You pointed out, the quarterback who's going to Mississippi State. He's the real deal. They've got weapons. They've got size up front. They've got pretty much the whole package. And when you're going up against a well-oiled machine like Cass, Cedartown does have weapons. They have some dudes, but they just don't have the experience, I think, to go on the road and pick up this victory. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to take Cass in the game, but anything can happen on any Friday night. So we'll see. Definitely, as we've referenced, this Cedartown team's just going to keep getting better. And one day they're going to sneak up on somebody and get them and start to turn that corner. So we'll see when that happens. But, that's going to be it for the Cedartown and Cass game. And then one more to pick as we start winding down. We got about 3 minutes left of the show. So let's talk about the Alexander Cougars going to Barron Stadium. Should be a great atmosphere. Rome Wolves hosting them. Rome leads the series, Ian, 3-0. They won last year 59-0, so dominant last year in this matchup. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, Rome has survived the gauntlet that they had to start their season, just a really tough 4-game stretch. They split that and come into this game 2-2, and you look at the rest of the schedule, and you have to think that Rome is going to be heavy favorites in most of these games going forward. And the win last week against East Paulding on the road, again, I feel like their mettle was tested a little bit, and we saw them respond in the second half and pull away late. Aiden McPherson's finding his groove with his receivers. The offense is moving the ball. And in this game, in front of the pack, man, the Wolves fans are going to show up in droves at Barron Stadium. The atmosphere is going to be great, and they're going to get entertained, and a big win from Rome.
I'm just going to go ahead and say I agree with you on this. Not a whole lot to add. Rome Wolves are starting to click, and I think that they should be able to take command of this region. I think they will. And with that said, that's our picks for today. We agree on this one. I do want to run down our coverage for your Friday in terms of our high school football coverage. It'll start this evening at 6:15 on Friday evening with This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, the program that you may be viewing right now. We get the radio edition of that at 6:45. It's the Coach Grove Show at 7:15. Ian and I will go live from Chris Hunter Stadium with the Tiger Kickoff Show. And then after that at 7:30, Toe Meets Leather. It's the Darlington Tigers and the Haralson County Rebels. And after that, you are invited to stay tuned and also participate in the Rome Orthopedic Center High School Football Scoreboard Show. Call in those guys and tell them what you saw in terms of high school football action, and they will appreciate your phone calls. And that is it. That's going to put a wrap on this edition of, what's the name of the show? This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, Week 6 edition. What in the heck day is it? It's Friday. It's time for high school football. Ian, it's been a pleasure talking to you, man.
Yeah,
thank you for your time, and thank you for everybody that's tuned in for the program today. Hope your team wins this weekend, and hope everybody has a safe weekend and enjoys high school football action. It's a special time of year, and we got to soak it in, man. It's going to be at the midway point when the night's over.
It's crazy.
That puts a wrap on This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. Have a great evening, everybody.
This has been another edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, brought to you by Riverside Auto Group and produced by WLAQ Sports. We appreciate you tuning in and invite you to tune in again next week. Please like, share, and subscribe.